Welcome one and all to another collision of fictional fighters on Grudge Match Unlimited, the show where we shove characters of different franchises together in one-on-one competition to determine who would win if they were to ever throw down with one another. Today we're wandering back into the dark world of horror films to find two demonic stalkers of youth and force them to turn away from their usual prey and put their skills to the test against each other. From the Pumpkinhead franchise, the titular character and demon of vengeance extraordinaire, Pumpkinhead, against the ever-hungry demon who stalks the cornfields for tasty human morsels. From Jeepers Creepers, it's the Creeper. Both of these monsters are silent as the graves they put their young victims in, and their exact natures are not fully defined but only can be determined by examining how their actions and reactions play out in their films. But their motivations are certainly not in question, as they both set their sights on teenagers and pursue them with single-minded purpose and demonic determination until they deliver a grim death to their victims. So taking a look at them individually and starting with Pumpkinhead, with the first film in the Pumpkinhead series coming out in 1988. There have been 4 films throughout the years in the Pumpkinhead series, and each Pumpkinhead has varied slightly from movie to movie. Now, Pumpkinhead is the demon of vengeance who arises out of the pumpkin patch in response to a spell being cast by a person who has been wronged. The person offers their soul in order to get revenge on those who wronged them. Once the spell is cast, Pumpkinhead rises and seeks the targets of the spell and rips them to shreds. Now, the reason Pumpkinhead changes from movie to movie is because Pumpkinhead tends to inhabit the body of either a previous spellcaster who has since died, or occasionally a victim, the body of a victim who's in need of vengeance. And because of this, because the demon Pumpkinhead is always inhabiting a different body, it's a slightly different looking Pumpkinhead from one movie to the next. Now, when he inhabits this body, the body becomes twisted and turns into a demonic form, so it doesn't resemble the person it once was in any way. Pumpkinhead turns that corpse into a demonic entity. Now, in the form of Pumpkinhead, the demon has a lot of powers and abilities that he uses to pursue and kill its victims. These include, most notably, superhuman strength, and also being quite a bit larger and more intimidating of a presence than any human. He has very long arms and very long legs and just a very overall large body, which he uses to tower over his victims and grab them from even a bit of a distance. They find it very difficult to fight against him because he is so large and overwhelming. Also, Pumpkinhead has claws on his hands and sharp fangs in his teeth, and also a long and powerful tail which can be used as a bludgeon weapon itself. These powers and strengths and this body allows Pumpkinhead to pursue and kill even the most hardy of victims when he is summoned to do so. The Creeper from the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers and then its sequel has been the star of 2 films, but even though has a fairly low amount of films he's appeared in, has made a very big impact and is sort of a cult favorite among horror movie fans. The backstory of the Creeper is that he's basically a demonic entity, and every 23 years, for 23 days, it rises and gets to feed. And its preferred meal is the body parts of humans that it likes. Whenever it causes fear to humans, it can then sense in their fear and smell on them different body parts that it likes. Now, it doesn't just eat these body parts and use it as sustenance and fuel, but the body parts that it eats actually then go into its own body to make up its own body parts. So the Creeper is basically an amalgam of different body parts that it has eaten throughout the years, and then those body parts it consumes become his own body parts. The Creeper is a highly intelligent character, even though he never speaks and may not even have the ability to speak, but even if he does, he never chooses to. But his intelligence is displayed by the way that he mimics human behavior. He tends to wear clothes and hide in the shadows so that at a distance he appears to be just a large man in a long coat. He also knows how to drive, and in the first film drives around an old beat-up truck, and so he has human-level intelligence, most likely that he has gotten from his eating of humans. He's acquired the intelligence of those that he consumes. Now, even though he wears clothes underneath his clothes, he has a very powerful demonic body. He has superhuman strength himself, and he also has 2 large wings, so he has the ability to fly. Very, very powerful wings as well. They can lift not only himself, but he can carry even multiple victims and fly with them at very high rates of speed. The Creeper also is seemingly unkillable in that even when he's suffered severe damage to vital organs, he can survive and then consume a fresh body and consume the organs in them that he himself has had damaged, and then their organs will replace his own. This was seen most notably in the second film when he got stabbed through the head and he then ripped his own head off and threw it away, killed a teenager, ripped its head off, and then that head that he took off of the teenager became his own head. So even vital organs can be replaced with seemingly little difficulty by the Creeper. The only downside is, the only problem associated with that is he does have to have a supply of victims in order to take their body parts and replenish his own. So having taken a look at the backstories and the skills and powers and demonic abilities that these 2 characters come into the fight with, it's time to determine who would win if they were to ever be forced to collide in one-on-one competition. The winner's going to be the Creeper. It would seem like the Creeper's unkillable nature would be the deciding factor in this fight. However, that's not necessarily the case, because grudge matches are not necessarily fights to the death. They are just fights until one opponent can no longer continue. And without a fresh supply of victims around to replenish his body parts, should the Creeper receive enough damage to his body, he could be completely incapacitated and unable to continue the fight. This was seen at the end of the second Jeepers Creepers movie, where he was blown almost to pieces, and he was still mobile, but he was very much diminished in ability. So Pumpkinhead could potentially do enough damage to him to incapacitate him and win the fight. However, this is where Creeper's other abilities come into play. Between the 2 of them, the Creeper is going to be much quicker, much more mobile. He has the wings, and he has the ability to fly at a very, very fast rate of speed, and he can use this to not only stay away from Pumpkinhead, but also to collide into him at extreme speeds. And that has been used in the past in the Creeper films to do something such as taking a head clean off his victims, or grabbing a victim, flying up in the air with them, and then dropping them down to the ground. Pumpkinhead, while very, very powerful in his own right, has been seen to not be completely invulnerable to damage. In the second film, he was killed by regular gunfire from a posse of humans who had tracked him down and used guns, rifles, shotguns in order to kill him. So he's vulnerable to damage, and that's the kind of thing that the Creeper could capitalize on and do sufficient damage to him to kill him. Even if Pumpkinhead managed to dole out some damage onto Creeper himself, though it could potentially hinder the Creeper, it's not going to kill him because he is unkillable. So it just comes down to the Creeper would be able to move much quicker, stay away from Pumpkinhead's attacks much easier, and then deliver his own extremely damaging attacks before Pumpkinhead could retaliate. So the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers is going to take the win of this Grudge Match Unlimited. Message me down below, let me know what you think of the outcome of this fight, and as always, future suggestions for upcoming grudge matches. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Grudge Match Unlimited.